Welcome to JCE Connect. Um, in the yesterday's class, we were discussing about the different types of bills. In that, we have discussed uh, running bills, lump sum bills, and the final bills. And we have discussed the how this is going to relate with the payment options, whether you are releasing at the interim, uh, whether you are releasing at the end. So that all kinds of things related to the payment options that we have discussed. Also, we have discussed the contractor ledger, and in that contractor ledger, what are the things to be included in the tabular format, that also we have given. And at the end, we have given the bill format also, how exactly the bill has to be prepared, and what are the components of that bills, that also we have discussed. Now we'll move on to the last topic of this module. This is the third module, that is arbitration. So in this arbitration, we will discuss the introduction, orbital and non-orbital disputes, duties of the arbitrator, benefits and the drawbacks during this arbitration process, kinds of arbitration in India, how exactly this can be doing in the Indian context. Of course, this is a very important component in the especially during contracting process, and during the tendering process, and during the execution process, and once it is executed, even during the final billing process, and even after the final billing process also, during the maintenance period, if any disputes has happened, then there is a option called the arbitrator, or the arbitration process has to be processed, um, to avoid the delay in the billing process, or delay in the maintenance period, or any problems in the maintenance period. Normally, um, this is a process, arbitration is a process which a dispute is submitted to an impartial outsider who makes a decision which is usually binding on both the parties. For example, if the dispute is happening between the two parties, for example, you can take it, the dispute is happening between the government organization and the contractor for the billing purpose. If any something is there in the billing, some problem is there in the billing purpose, or something is there in some problems are there during the processing of the billing process, uh, the government officer, that is AW or EE, he is unable to process the bills. Once he is unable to process the bills due to some reasons, the contractor is going to lose a delay in the bills. Then that is one dispute, because the higher authority E or the district collector is not doing, or not allowing to or not sanctioning the bill what the contractor has what the contract work has did by the contractors. So in this case, the dispute is between the the district collector and uh, the contractor. Now this has to be solved, because once it is solved, then only he will get then only he will get the money. The contractor will get the money. Then how this has to be solved? Then one person is required. That person, normally we can call it as arbitrator. This arbitrator is no way connected with both the parties. means either he is connected to an district collector, or either he is connected to an contractor. So then he is going to solve the whatever the dispute is there between the collector and the contractor. So then once it is solved, then the bill will be processed, and the arbiter has to make an argument so that uh, he should be able to solve the problem by helping both the parties. They think that he is helping the collector has to think that he is helping me, and the contractor is also think that he is helping me, but impartial uh, ness or transparency should be maintained between the two parties. In this diagram you can see the red person, whoever is there, he is touching the hands of both the parties and he is solving the problems related to the whatever the dispute is there during the billing process. This is one dispute. Like that you have many other disputes will be there when the project is going on, when the project is completed, or if he is taking one more project and during tendering process. So many disputes, so then the arbiter has to come and he has to solve it. So the arbiter enforces his own point of view on the contending the parties, and the opinions of the participants are not given any predominance. Of course, he will tell his own opinion based on the two parties' views, and here there is no option called there is a option will not be available for uh, the both the parties uh, to uh, go beyond some limits. Of course, views will be asked by the two parties, but the arbiter will restrict to some points, saying that you have to tell this much only, you have to tell this much only. They have to tell that much only, both the parties. Then the arbiter has an legal authority to do that, and he has to solve it. Of course, this arbitration is a judicial process. Of course, many people has to accept this arbitration process because it is completely judicial process, and this judicial process always involve the transparency. So then if the transparency is maintained, of course the both the parties are there, they have to ask whichever is correct one, because judicial, when it comes to the judicial custody or the judicial sections, normally it will go as a transparent process. The award of the arbiter is binding and rest on equity and justice. That is, there is no scope for the compromise. So there will not be any compromise by the arbitrator in case of both the parties. So they should not have to compromise in uh, award of uh, during the award of any of the billing process or tendering process and all those things. So it should be clear, and it should be, the arbiter should be transparent. So then normally how this arbitration process is going to happen, or what exactly the process and how exactly it is going to start and how exactly it is going to end. So initially the arbitrator, I will take the case, whatever the case is, either it is related to the uh, tendering process or a billing process, or during the maintenance period, or whatever it is. That is one case he has to select. Then on that the arbiter is a selection process, it will be there, what kind of arbiter, what is the specialization. For example, one case will be selected. For that case, what kind of arbiter is required, whether he is able to solve the dispute whatever is there between the two or three parties, whichever it is. So then the specialized arbitrator has to be selected based on the importance of the dispute. Preliminary hearing and scheduling order. So what the arbiter has to do is that he has to hear both the parties, and he has to schedule an order. Okay, this might be the order, this might be the solution, this might be how we are going to solve the dispute. Then once it is done, once it is scheduled it, and the better they have to do the some discovery process, so that during this discovery process, whatever the arbitrary process, whatever arbitrary decisions if he has taken, that has to be discovered in detail by the arbitrator, or some other else by the third party who is not connected to even this arbitrator, and he has to take the opinions. If he is feeling that okay, the impartialness is happening to the first party, or injustice is happening to the first party or second party, so he has to take the opinions, not the decisions. He has to take the opinions. So once it is a discovery has happened, then hearings or whatever is there uh, has to do it, and he has to tell both the parties. Okay, this will be the solution for this to the parties. Then arbitration hearing means once it has confirmed that okay, both the parties are satisfied, then he has to tell finally. Suppose during the hearing process or the mediation process, um, if anything is um, if they are feeling that okay, if you do this, I'm going to lose this much. If you take this decision, where we are going to, if any some that kind of things are heard from both the parties, then he has to come back with again preliminary hearing. Again he has to schedule it, that is again then again he has to change its mediation or the hearing. Then that cycle has to be one or two times, it has to be carefully reviewed. Then finally he has to go for arbitration hearing final. So once it is done, so what will the impact of this arbitration hearing, that we can call it as post arbitration brief. Normally once this has happened, whatever the decision they have taken, let it continue with that decision. Then they have to check in the field that with the decision is there any losses is going to happen for both the parties, that they have to check it. Normal that we can call it as post arbitration briefs. So then he has to award the okay, once it is done, after even after the final, if too much loss is happening to the first party compared to the second party, then he can change the decision, he can go back to the preliminary hearing rescheduling it. Then again that cycle has to be completed, that has to be reviewed properly. So normally that we can call it as post arbitration briefs. So then once everything is done properly, okay, even discovery process no problem, even hearing or the mediation process no problem, the arbitration hearing no problem, so post arbitration brief no problem. Then if no, if any problem is not happening, or if both the parties are satisfied, then you have to award the final arbitration, or finally you have to decide okay, this is the final arbitration award, means it is a decision taken by the arbiter. This is how the arbitration process will work during arbitration process. So then what kind of normally arbitral disputes will come? The first one, that is the property. Like what if any property related issues, if like whether it is what kind of whether it is property issues like um, if two or three members are there in the house, if they want, okay, I need my father property, I need this kind of property. So any property issues, or if any land issues, or if any agricultural land issues, or whether it is a commercial land issues, so commercial property issues, so that kind of issues are there, the arbitral has to come and he has to solve the problems between the two or the three parties. If any insurance related the issues like vehicle insurance or life insurance or the medical insurance, if anything is there, the arbiter has to come and he has to solve the problems related to the insurance. Then contract is very important because in most of the cases, I already said that it has happened many times during the large contracting process. Sometimes even during the tendering process, if the tender is awarded to the contractor will agree for the conditions. So once he has agreed to the conditions, if any uncertainties happened, then he is unable to complete the project. Once he is unable to complete the project, then the disputes will start between the those who will award the contract and the contractor. Then how to solve these uncertainties? Then there will be a very important person, that is arbiter, has to come and he has to tell that because of this uncertainties that happened, for the contractor is unable to complete the project work, at least you can sanction this much of bill to the contractors, and he has to convince both the parties. It is not only on one side, it has to be on the both sides, he has to hear it, and it has to go with the legal procedures only. So then business and the partnership disputes. For example, if you are constructing any houses, or if you are constructing any building, or if you are sharing one land between the partnerships, normally what will happen is that we are going to uh, the arbiter will come and he will say that okay, this much land is for you and this much land is for you, and it has to go as for the agreement which you have done earlier, and you are not supposed to deviate all those things. Then uh, family disputes, except some divorce matters, that should not be taken into this arbiter. And the arbiter, whatever it is, that he is having its own boundaries, that boundaries only he has to restrict himself, and um, divorce type of matters he is not supposed to take, it is out of the boundary of the arbiter. So then construction, during some execution of any of the work or during the construction process, how this arbitral process is going to happen, that has to be decided. Then commercial, some of the recoveries, for example, um, if you are recovering any money from uh, the people who has taken the money from you, or if you are recovering any land property, if he is unable to pay the bills, if he is taking any loan and he is unable to pay the loan back, then that we normally we can call the recovery of the related commercial properties whatever he is holding. It has happened like you see the example of Malya's case. So he has gone and bankrupt, and he has taken the loan in State Bank of India, and later he went to the abroad. If he is unable to pay back, then the whatever the commercial plots are available with his name, has been recovered by the bank. So that normally we get the best example for commercial recoveries. So then which are the non-arbitral disputes? Normally it has not been taken by the arbitrator. So matters of criminal in nature. So of course if any criminal like the killing or whatever it is that kind of disputes are there, it is out of the boundary of the arbitration process or the arbitrator. So disputes relating to the matrimonial relations. So if any marriage related issues, it is out of the arbitral process. So then if anything is related to the validity of the will means you already know that uh, will is written by the people or the person who will uh, write the will on the property, saying that this property goes to this person only, irrespective of any of the normal procedures like the property of the father, it has to go to the son itself. So such kind of matters, it is out of the arbitration process. So relating to the trust for the public purposes of a charitable or religion is some of the charitable issues and some of the religious based issues, it is out of the um, arbitration process. Some of the insolvency matters and matters relating to the guardianships of the minor and the lunatic. Means minor, it's a sense, for example, if the minor is there, if the minor has married a major person, then again it is a dispute. That kind of problems will not be solved by the arbitrator. So any execution proceedings like the hanging of any person or execution by the courts, execution proceedings, it is the execution by the courts itself. So if any person has executed by hangings, so yeah, again that dispute is one dispute. That kind of things has out of the arbitration process. So then what are the uh, duties of the arbitrator? To administer oath to the parties and witness appearing. So he has to give the oath to both the parties and witness for appearing. He should be a witness for the judicial or in the court or whatever it is there. He should be the witness for appearing during oath or final decision making. To act judicially and impartial. Of course, these are very important. Should be very transparent and should be impartial for both the parties. To put necessary interrogatories to any party to the dispute. He has to put necessary interrogations, like he has to ask many of the things, or he has to ask both the parties his views or opinions, or he has to make an interrogation related to the dispute at any party of the to the dispute related issues, to determine by and to whom the cost of the reference and the award shall be paid. And finally, he has to take the decision that what kind of things has to be made, or what we should award to these two parties, whether it is for both the party it has to go, or whether it is a single parties, or whether it is that kind of things, he has to award it. So in some of the cases he has to do this awarding process also, to fix the amount, mode and time of payment also, and everything has to be mentioned in that arbitration process. If it is a money matters, so when you have to pay it to the first party or second party, or the second party has to pay to the first party, or the first party has to the second party, he has to fix it, what amount he has to pay it, what amount he has to pay it, and when, what kind of mode you have to do it, that also uh, has to be included. and what will be the time of payment, that has also be included in the, and all these things will come in the part of arbitrator. So maybe um, in the next class we'll continue with this arbitration process. Thank you.